when Victoria Sloane demanded to know why her company's logo was on the janitor's toolbox. She never expected his answer would rip open the wound of her brother's death and reveal the truth she'd spent 15 years searching for. Blood drained from Marcus Reed's face as he recognized the CEO confronting him, the sister of the man who had died, because he hadn't blown the whistle soon enough. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment where in the world you're watching from. Let's go. Explain why my logo is on your tools, demanded the CEO, her voice slicing through the pristine hallway like a blade of ice. Marcus Reed froze, one hand still gripping the handle of his toolbox. The red and blue company emblem, her company's emblem, stared up at them both. A silent witness to this unexpected confrontation. The morning had started like any other. He'd arrived at Helios Tower before dawn, used his keycard to access the service entrance, and begun his rounds, floor by floor, fixing what was broken, cleaning what was dirty, invisible work done by invisible hands. Until her, Victoria Sloane, CEO of Compari Technologies. The 34th floor's newest tenant stood before him in a tailored navy suit that probably cost more than 3 months of his salary. Her arms were crossed, one finger tapping an impatient rhythm against her sleeve. Behind her, through the glass walls of the conference room, Marcus could see a meeting paused mid-sentence. Executives frozen in their chairs, curious eyes watching the drama unfold. I asked you a question, Victoria said, her tone softening just enough to be dangerous. Those are Compari tools. That's my logo. Explain yourself. Marcus straightened, suddenly aware of the contrast they made, her immaculate in designer wear. Him, in faded blue coveralls with mysterious stains on the knees from crawling under desks to fix wiring. He felt the weight of 20 pairs of executive eyes boring into him from the conference room. Ma'am, these are my personal tools, he said, his voice steady despite the hammering in his chest. I've had this set for over 15 years. Victoria's eyebrow arched in perfect skepticism. So you're telling me you just happen to have my company's proprietary logo on your personal toolbox? Do you think I'm an idiot? A security guard appeared at the end of the hallway, drawn by the commotion. Marcus felt a cold trickle of sweat down his spine. He couldn't afford to lose this job. Not now, not when Lily's treatments were finally showing progress. No, ma'am, I don't think that at all. Marcus took a deep breath, but this logo wasn't always Compari's. It used to belong to Constantin Engineering, back when Robert Constantin still ran the company. Something flickered across Victoria's face, a micro-expression too fast to read. Her eyes narrowed. Constantin went bankrupt 8 years ago, she said. I acquired their assets and rebranded. What exactly are you implying? The security guard was drawing closer. Marcus could feel his future slipping away with every step the man took. He'd always known this day might come, but he'd hoped it never would. Not like this. Not so publicly. I'm not implying anything, Miss Sloane. I worked for Constantin. I was the head of maintenance operation. When the company folded, they let us keep our tools as partial severance. I've used them ever since. Victoria studied him with the calculating gaze of a predator assessing prey. If you were management at Constantin, why are you working as a janitor now? The question hit like a physical blow. Marcus felt the familiar ache rise in his chest, the one that appeared whenever someone asked about his fall from middle management to maintenance. The conference room audience had grown, executives not even pretending to mind their business anymore. Life happens, he said simply. Things change. Victoria's phone chirped. She glanced at the screen, then back at Marcus, her expression hardening again. Report to my office at noon. Bring documentation proving your employment at Constant. And bring those tools. She turned sharply, expensive heels clicking on the polished floor as she strode back toward the conference room. The security guard, sensing the immediate conflict had passed, retreated to his post. Marcus stood alone in the hallway, heart pounding, toolbox suddenly feeling unbearably heavy. He had 4 hours to decide whether to fight or run. The maintenance office was a converted storage room in the basement, wedged between the boiler room and electrical panel. It smelled perpetually of cleaning solutions and the cheap coffee that bubbled in a pot on a hot plate in the corner. Marcus set his toolbox on the workbench with a metallic thud. That sounded ominous, said Hector, looking up from the sink where he was washing paint rollers. At 62, Hector had been at Helios Tower longer than anyone. He'd seen CEOs and companies come and go like seasonal fashion. Met the new tenant on 34, Marcus said, collapsing onto a folding chair. Victoria Sloane, Compari Technologies. Hector whistled low. The Ice Queen herself. What did you do to catch her attention? Try fixing her thermostat without genuflecting first. Despite everything, Marcus smiled. Worse, she saw Constantin's logo on my tools. The smile faded from Hector's face. Hell. He dried his hands and sat across from Marcus. She made the connection? Not yet, but she wants proof I worked there. Wants to see me at noon. Hector's weathered face creased in thought. You could call in sick. Take a few days. Let it blow over. Marcus shook his head. And then what? Hide my tools forever? Change jobs again? He ran a hand over his face. I'm tired of running, Hector. Lily starts middle school next year. I can't keep uprooting her every time someone connects the dots. The coffee maker sputtered to completion. Hector stood and poured 2 mugs. adding 3 sugars to Marcus's without asking. It was their ritual, a small constancy in a world where everything else seemed determined to shift beneath their feet. Then maybe it's time, Hector said gently, pushing the mug across the workbench. Marcus wrapped his hands around the chipped ceramic, letting the warmth seep into his palms. Time for what? To tell the truth. A bitter laugh escaped before Marcus could stop it. The truth? That I was Robert Constantin's right-hand man? That I helped him build that company from nothing, only to watch him dismantle it piece by piece for his own profit? That I knew what he was doing and said nothing. Hector sipped his coffee, unfazed by Marcus's outburst. The truth that you were the whistleblower. That you're the reason Constantin went to prison instead of retiring to a private island. Marcus stared into his coffee as if it might contain answers. That truth cost me everything, Hector. It's my career, my savings, almost my marriage before Diana got sick. He looked up, eyes hollow. And what good did it do? Victoria Sloane bought the ashes and built something twice as ruthless. You don't know that. I've heard stories. Stories aren't facts, Hector countered. And even if she is ruthless, at least she hasn't embezzled pension funds or falsified safety reports. Yet, Marcus flinched at the reminder. Those falsified reports had cost 3 workers their lives. He still saw their faces in his dreams sometimes, accusing him of waiting too long to speak up. His phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Patel next door. Lily home from school with fever. Gave her soup. She's asking for you. The universe had a cruel sense of timing. Marcus showed the message to Hector. Go, the older man said immediately. Family first. Always. Marcus hesitated. If I miss that meeting, single quotes, then you miss it, Hector said firmly. What's the worst that happens? You get fired? There are other buildings, other maintenance job. There's only one Lily. He was right, of course. Marcus gathered his things, leaving the Constantin toolbox on the workbench. If she comes looking, I'll tell her you had a family emergency. It's the truth. Marcus nodded, grateful. I owe you one. You owe me several hundred, but who's counting? Hector waved him toward the door. Go take care of your girl. The apartment was 8 blocks from Helios Tower, in a neighborhood that real estate agents optimistically called transitional. The building was old but clean, with narrow hallways that smelled of curry and floor polish. Marcus took the stairs 2 at a time, anxiety propelling him upward. Mrs. Patel opened her door as he reached their floor. She's in your place, the elderly woman said. I gave her medicine 2 hours ago. The fever's better. Marcus thanked her profusely, pressing a 20 into her hand despite her protests. Inside his apartment, he found Lily curled on the couch, wrapped in her favorite purple blanket, the one Diana had crocheted during those final hospital months. Hey, Squirt, he said softly. Lily looked up, 12 years old, but suddenly seeming much younger. Dad, you came home. Of course I did. He sat beside her, pressing his palm to her forehead. Still warm, but not dangerously so. Mrs. Patel said you're feeling rough. My throat hurts, she said, her voice raspy. And my head is all fuzzy. Sounds like the bug that's been going around. He brushed her dark hair from her face. She had Diana's eyes, deep brown with flecks of gold, windows to a soul older than her years. Have you taken your other medicine today? Lily nodded. At breakfast. I didn't forget. That's my girl. The other medicine was for the juvenile rheumatoid arthritis that had appeared 3 years ago, turning their already complicated lives upside down. The monthly treatments were working, but they were expensive, even with insurance. Another reason he couldn't afford to lose this job. Marcus was heating soup when the doorbell rang. He froze, wooden spoons suspended over the pot. No one ever rang their bell except delivery people, and he hadn't ordered anything. Dad, Lily called from the couch. There's someone at the door. Marcus wiped his hands, mind racing. It couldn't be. She wouldn't. But when he opened the door, Victoria Sloane stood in his hallway, looking as out of place as a peacock in a pigeon coop. She traded her navy suit for a more casual blazer over dark jeans, but she still radiated wealth and authority. Behind her, improbably, was Hector, looking both apologetic and defiant. Miss Reed, Victoria said coolly. You missed our appointment. Marcus's throat went dry. My daughter is sick, so I was informed. Her gaze shifted past him to where Lily had appeared in the living room doorway, blanket still wrapped around her shoulders. Your daughter, I presume? Marcus fought the urge to close the door, to physically block this woman from seeing Lily, from contaminating their home with the past he'd tried so hard to outrun. What do you want, Ems? Sloane? Victoria hefted a familiar object, his Constantin toolbox. I think we need to finish our conversation about why you have my logo on your Victoria's gaze traveled around the modest apartment, taking in the mismatched furniture, the school photos on the wall, the folded laundry on the dining table. Her expression revealed nothing, but Marcus felt exposed, as if she were cataloging every deficiency, every compromise, every corner cut to make ends meet. This is hardly the place for this discussion, Marcus said, and yet here we are. Victoria set the toolbox on the coffee table. Because you chose to skip our meeting. Lily stepped forward, blanket clutched around her shoulders. Are you Dad's boss? Victoria's expression softened almost imperceptibly, in a manner of speaking. And you must be Lily. How do you know my name? Your father's emergency contact information lists you, Victoria said smoothly, though Marcus hadn't provided that information to Compare Technologies. She'd clearly done her research after their morning encounter. Hector cleared his throat. I should go. Just wanted to make sure you got the toolbox back, Marcus. Marcus shot him a look that communicated both irritation and understanding. Thanks, Hector. Sorry, the older man mouthed silently before retreating down the hallway. Marcus turned to Lily. Sweetie, why don't you go rest in your room? I need to talk to Ems. Sloane privately. But Dad, please. Lily. She hesitated, then nodded, throwing a curious glance at Victoria before disappearing into her bedroom. When the door clicked shut, Marcus crossed his arms. How did you find my address? Human Resources keeps records, Victoria replied, making herself comfortable on his couch without invitation. And Mr. Garcia was quite helpful once I explained. What situation is that exact? Marcus remained standing, unwilling to concede even the small territory of his own living room. Victoria ran a manicured finger along the Constantin logo on the toolbox. That's what I'm here to determine. She looked up at him, her gaze calculating. After you left, I had my assistant pull everything we have on Constantin Engineering, bankruptcy filing, acquisition documents, news archive. Marcus's stomach tightened. Your name appeared with surprising frequency, she continued. Marcus Reed, operations director. Robert Constantin's right hand, according to industry profiles. The company was poised to become a major player in sustainable building technologies until ... single quotes, she trailed off deliberately. Until it wasn't, Marcus finished flatly. Until a whistleblower exposed systematic fraud, safety violations, and embezzlement. Correct. Fascinating reading. But nowhere in those documents does it name the whistleblower. The soup on the stove began to boil over. Marcus moved to the kitchen to turn off the heat, grateful for the momentary reprieve from her piercing stare. He wiped the spill, organizing his thoughts. When he returned to the living room, Victoria hadn't moved except to extract a folder from her sleek leather bag. Why are you here? Marcus asked. If you've read all that, you know Constantin was a criminal. You know the company was corrupt. What does any of that have to do with me being a janitor in your building 15 years later? Because information is incomplete without context. She opened the folder, removing a photograph and placing it on the coffee table. This was taken at the Constantin Engineering Christmas Party 2009. Marcus didn't need to look, but he did anyway. There he was, younger and more confident, standing between Robert Constantin and Victoria Sloane herself, all three smiling, champagne flutes in hand. You were an investor, Marcus said quietly. I was considering it, Victoria corrected. We met 3 times. You gave me the full tour, showed me the prototypes, introduced me to the design team. You were very convincing. I believed in what we were building. Evidently not enough to keep the company from imploding. Her tone wasn't accusatory, merely observational. I lost nothing thanks to your intervention. I never finalized my investment. Marcus sank into the chair across from her, suddenly exhausted. What do you want from me, Ms. Sloane? To thank you for not having me arrested for stealing a toolbox that was given to me. To apologize for a company that failed 15 years ago. What? I want to understand, she said simply. I want to know how the operations director of a promising green tech company ended up as a janitor in my building, still carrying tools with a dead company's logo. The question hung in the air between them, heavy with implications. Marcus glanced toward Lily's closed door, lowering his voice. After the company fell, no one would hire me. I was toxic, Constantin's right-hand man. Everyone assumed I was complicit. He laughed humorlessly. The whistleblower protection only works if people know you're the whistleblower. Victoria's eyebrow arched. And why didn't they? Because I didn't want them to. Marcus leaned forward. Robert Constantin had friends in dark places. Powerful friends. The prosecutor offered me anonymity as part of the deal. I took it. To protect yourself. To protect my family. His voice hardened. Diana was pregnant with Lily. Constantin had already made veiled threats. I wasn't going to risk them. Understanding dawned in Victoria's eyes. So you sacrificed your career instead. I chose my family over my career. Marcus corrected. I'd make the same choice again. Victoria studied him with new interest. Your wife isn't in the picture now. It wasn't a question, but Marcus answered anyway. Cancer. 6 years ago. I'm sorry, the words seemed genuine. If practiced, the response of someone who'd learned the appropriate things to say in difficult moments. And your daughter's illness? Marcus stiffened. How do you... The medicine cabinet in your bathroom is open. I saw the prescriptions when I passed. She held up a hand. I'm not prying. I'm observing. Juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, Marcus said reluctantly. She was diagnosed 3 years ago. The treatments are working, but not the doc confuddily. He didn't finish. He didn't need to. The financial strain was evident in every aspect of their lives. Victoria nodded, absorbing this information with the same clinical detachment she'd displayed throughout their conversation. She returned to the folder, extracting another document. Do you know what this is? She asked, sliding it across the coffee table. Marcus glanced down. It was a patent application, dated shortly before Constantin's collapse. His name was listed as one of the inventors. The reclamation system, he said, a flicker of pride cutting through the weariness. It was supposed to reduce water usage in commercial buildings by 70%. It does, Victoria replied. Or rather, it will, once we finish development. Marcus looked up sharply. What? When I acquired Constantin's assets, I acquired their intellectual property as well, including this patent. Tapped the doc. My R&D team has been refining it. We're preparing for commercial launch next quarter. A complex wave of emotions crashed over Marcus's pride. Anger, loss, and a strange sense of vindication. That was my design. Mine and Elaine Cho's. I know. Ems Cho works for me now. Of course she did. Elaine had been brilliant, uncompromising. She'd land on her feet no matter what. So that's why you're here, Marcus said, the pieces finally clicking into place. You're worried I'll make a claim on the patent. Victoria actually laughed, a short, surprised sound. No, Miss Reed. The legal ownership is quite clear. I'm here because Elaine Cho saw your name on the maintenance request for our floor this morning and nearly had a breakdown. Marcus blinked. Elaine saw my name? She thought she was seeing a ghost. When I mentioned confronting a janitor with a Constantin toolbox, she connected the dots. Victoria leaned forward. She told me I had to find you immediately, that you were the whistleblower, that without you, Constantin would have killed more people. The soup in the kitchen had gone cold. Marcus could hear Lily coughing in her bed. Outside, a siren wailed in the distance. His carefully constructed life, the one he'd rebuilt from the ashes of Constantine. Engineering was unraveling before his eyes. Miss Sloane, Victoria, please. Victoria, he amended. I don't understand what you want from me. She closed the folder and returned it to her bag, then stood, smoothing her blazer with practiced precision. I want to offer you a job, Mr. Reed. The statement was so unexpected that Marcus could only stare. Not as a janitor, she clarified. As a consultant on the reclamation system. Elaine needs your input to finalize the design. You'd be properly credited and compensated, of course. Marcus found his voice. I have a job. You have work, Victoria corrected. There's a difference. Before Marcus could respond, Lily's bedroom door opened. She stood there, still pale but determined, purple blanket draped over her shoulders like a cape. Dad, she said, her voice raspy. The soup smells ready. The simple normality of the request snapped Marcus back to reality. Come in, squirt. Victoria watched the exchange, her expression softening in a way Marcus wouldn't have thought possible from their earlier encounter. I should go, she said, gathering her bag. You have more important matters to attend to. She extracted a business card and placed it atop the Constantin toolbox. My direct line. Call me when you're ready to discuss terms. Marcus walked her to the door, still processing the sudden turn of events. At the threshold, Victoria paused. One more thing, she said. Why keep the tools with the Constantin logo? It couldn't have been easy. Carrying that reminder, Marcus thought about the question, about all the times he'd considered disposing of the toolbox, buying a new one without the emotional baggage, about why he never had. Because they remind me, he said finally, of what we were building, of what it could have been before Robert ruined it. He met her gaze directly, and because good tools are expensive, a ghost of a smile touched Victoria's lips, practical and principled. Interesting combination. She nodded toward Lily, who was watching them from the kitchen doorway. Take care of her. We'll talk soon. She left without waiting for a response, heels clicking down the hallway with metronome precision. Marcus closed the door and leaned against it, exhaling a breath he felt he'd been holding for 15 years. Dad? Lily asked, concern in her voice. Who was that lady? Are you in trouble? Marcus looked at his daughter, this miracle who had kept him going through the darkest times, who gave him purpose when everything else had been stripped away. Then he glanced at the toolbox on the coffee table, the Constantin logo catching the afternoon light. No, sweetheart, he said, moving to the kitchen to reheat her soup. I don't think I'm in trouble. I think maybe things are about to change. 3 days later, Lily's fever had broken, and Marcus found himself standing in the lobby of Helios Tower, staring at the elevator with uncharacteristic hesitation. The familiar weight of his Constantin toolbox hung from his right hand, but today he wasn't headed to the maintenance office in the basement. Today he was going to the 34th floor, to Compari Technologies. You look like a man heading to his execution, Hector said, appearing beside him with a mop bucket. It's just a meeting. Marcus adjusted his tie, borrowed from Hector, who kept one in his locker for emergencies, though Marcus had never witnessed such an emergency in their 5 years working together. It's more than a meeting, Marcus replied. It's, I don't know what it is. After Victoria's unexpected visit, Marcus had spent 2 sleepless nights weighing his options. The practical side of him recognized the opportunity for what it was. Better pay, a chance to finish what he'd started at Constantin, a way to provide for Lily beyond mere survival. But another part of him, the part still scarred from Constantine's collapse, was wary of re-entering that world, of trusting Victoria Sloane with his expertise, his integrity, or his future. It's a second chance, Hector said simply. Not many of those floating around these days. Best grab it while you can. The elevator doors slid open. A group of executives exited, their conversation halting momentarily as they noticed Marcus in his out-of-place button-down shirt and slacks, holding a battered toolbox emblazoned with the Compari logo. I haven't accepted anything yet, Marcus reminded his friend. It's just a conversation. Hector snorted. Sure, and I'm just pushing this mop for the exercise. He gave Marcus a gentle nudge toward the elevator. Go, before you chicken out. Lily deserves this, even if you think you don't. It was the mention of his daughter that propelled Marcus forward. Lily, who had been ecstatic at the possibility of her dad working with computers and cool water systems instead of fixing toilets and changing light bulbs. Lily, who deserved a future unconstrained by his past mistakes. The elevator ascended smoothly, numbers climbing. With each floor, Marcus felt the weight of 15 years pressing down on him. By the time the doors opened on 34, he was sweating through Hector's borrowed shirt. The Compari reception area was a study in minimalist luxury all glass, brushed steel, and soft, indirect lighting. The receptionist looked up, momentarily confused by the sight of Marcus in business casual rather than coveralls. I'm here to see Victoria Sloane, he said, surprised by the steadiness in his voice. Marcus Reed. The receptionist's confusion cleared. Of course, Mr. Reed. Mrs. Sloane is expecting you. And so is Marcus? The voice came from behind him, familiar and yet changed by the passage of years. He turned to find Elaine Cho staring at him, her expression a complex mixture of disbelief, joy, and something like remorse. She looked different, her once long hair now cut in a sleek bob. Designer glasses perched on her nose, a tablet clutched to her chest like a shield. But her eyes were the same, bright with intelligence and that particular intensity that had always made her the sharpest engineer in any room. "Elaine," he managed, his prepared speech evaporating. "You look well, and you look ... single quote," she trailed off, clearly struggling with how to characterize his transformation from operations director to maintenance worker. "You look exactly like yourself." Before the awkward moment could extend further, Victoria emerged from a glass-walled conference room. Reed," she greeted him, as coolly professional as she'd been in his apartment. "Thank you for coming. I see you've reunited with Ms. Cho." "Just now," Elaine said, recovering her composure. "I was about to take him to the lab," Victoria nodded. "Excellent. I have a board call in 5 minutes. Join me in my office afterward, Mr. Reed. We can discuss terms then." She disappeared down the hallway, leaving Marcus alone with the ghost of his professional past. Elaine shifted from one foot to the other, uncharacteristically uncertain. "The lab is this way," she said finally, gesturing toward a corridor on the opposite side from where Victoria had gone. "It's not quite what we had at Constantin, but it's better in many ways." As they walked, the awkwardness between them gradually gave way to a tentative professional curiosity. Elaine asked about his familiarity with current water reclamation technology. Marcus inquired about the modifications she'd made to their original design. Neither mentioned Constantin directly or the 15-year gulf that had opened between their paths. The lab itself was impressive, twice the size of Constantin's R&D space, with state-of-the-art equipment and a team of young engineers who looked up curiously as Elaine led Marcus inside. In the center of the room stood a prototype of their reclamation system, evolved but recognized, like seeing an old friend who had aged well. "You kept the core design," Marcus observed, circling the prototype, his engineer's eye automatically cataloging the changes and improvements. "It was solid," Elaine said with a shrug that didn't quite hide her pride. "The fundamental concept was ahead of its time. We've just refined it with better materials and processing power." For the next hour, they lost themselves in technical discussions, the years falling away as they spoke the shared language of innovation and problem-solving. Marcus found himself animated in a way he hadn't been since before Constantin's fall, pointing out potential efficiencies, questioning design choices, suggesting alternatives. The young engineers gathered around, initially skeptical of this unknown man with his ancient box, but increasingly engaged as they realized his expertise. By the time Victoria appeared in the doorway, Marcus was deep in debate with Elaine over flow regulators. His tie loosened, sleeves rolled up, hands gesturing passionately as he made his point. "I see you've reacquainted yourself with the project," Victoria observed, causing the group to turn. "A productive reunion, I take it?" Elaine nodded, a genuine smile lighting her face. "Marcus has already identified 3 potential improvements to the filtration system. He thinks we can increase efficiency by another 15%. 12. Marcus corrected automatically. 15 is theoretical, but would require... "I'm sure Miss Cho can brief me on the technical details later," Victoria interrupted smoothly. "For now, I'd like to borrow you for that discussion of terms." Marcus followed her to a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Unlike the sterile minimalism of the reception area, Victoria's office contained unexpected touches of warmth. A worn leather chair that looked out of place among the modern furniture, bookshelves filled with actual paper books, a small potted tree in the corner. "Please, sit," she said, gesturing to a chair across from her desk. Marcus placed his toolbox on the floor beside him, suddenly conscious again of the disparity between them. Her in her tailored blazer and designer jewelry, him in borrowed clothes with calloused hands. Victoria didn't waste time on pleasantries. "Elaine was right about you," she said, pulling a folder from her desk. "You still have the insight we need for this project." "The design was always sound," Marcus replied. "It just needed the right environment to flourish, an environment Constantin failed to provide," Victoria noted, watching his reaction carefully. Marcus nodded, accepting the implicit question. Robert was more interested in quick returns than lasting innovation. When investors started asking questions about revenue projections, he began cutting corners. Safety protocols, quality control, eventually financial records. "And you reported him." It wasn't a question, but Marcus answered anyway. "Not soon enough. 3 people died in that factory collapse before I gathered the courage to act. I should have spoken up earlier." Victoria leaned back, studying him. "Most people wouldn't have spoken up at all. Most people didn't see the falsified safety reports with their own eyes," Marcus countered. "I knew, and I waited too long. Those deaths are on me as much as Robert. Is that why you kept the tools? As penance?" The question caught him off guard. He glanced down at the toolbox. The familiar logo, a reminder of everything he'd gained and lost. "Partly," he admitted, "and partly because ... despite everything, I was proud of what we built before it all went wrong." "What we tried to build?" Victoria nodded as if he'd confirmed something she'd already suspected. She slid the folder across the desk. "My offer," she said simply. 6-month contract initially, with the option to extend. Consultant fee commensurate with your expertise. A flexible schedule to accommodate her needs. Marcus opened the folder. The figure on the first page made his breath catch. It was more than triple his current salary. "This is ... generous," he managed. "It's market rate," Victoria corrected. "Actually, slightly below, given your experience. But we can negotiate if..." "No," Marcus interrupted. No, it's fine. More than fine. It's just been a while since, single quote, since I was valued for my mind instead of my hand. He didn't say. Victoria seemed to hear it anyway. The maintenance position will remain available if this doesn't work out. No one is asking you to leap without a safety net, Mr. Reed. Marcus looked up from the contract, studying her face for any sign of duplicity. Why are you doing this? Really? You could have just had me fired when you saw the toolbox, or ignored me completely once you confirmed I wasn't a threat to your patent. Victoria was quiet for a moment, her expression thoughtful. Finally, she stood and walked to the window, gazing out at the city below. 15 years ago, I almost invested everything I had in Constantin Engineering, she said. Not because of the technology, impressive as it was, but because of the people. You, Elaine, the team you'd built. You had something special, a vision, a purpose beyond profit. She turned back to face him. When it collapsed, I watched the vultures descend, corporations fighting over the patents, the equipment, the client lists, but no one fought for the people. The team scattered to the winds. And now you're collecting us again, Marcus said, understanding dawning. First Elaine, now me. I'm building something here, Mr. Reed. Something that matters. For the first time, genuine passion colored her voice. The reclamation system is just the beginning. I need people who understand that technology should serve humanity, not exploit it. People with both brilliance and integrity. People not like Robert Constantin, Marcus concluded. Precisely. She returned to her desk. So, Miss Reed, are you interested in finishing what you started? Or would you prefer to continue changing light bulbs? Marcus looked down at the contract, then at the Constantin toolbox at his feet. The parallel was not lost on him, a symbol of his past sitting beside a potential future, both bearing the same logo, now hers. I have one condition, he said finally. Victoria raised an eyebrow, waiting. I keep the tools, logo and all. A smile touched the corner of her mouth. I wouldn't have it any other way. 2 weeks into his new role at Compari Technologies, Marcus found himself working late in the lab, surrounded by schematics and component prototypes. The transition had been smoother than he'd expected, his mind slipping back into the rhythms of engineering with surprising ease, as if the 15-year detour through maintenance work had been merely a brief interruption. He ran his hand over a miniaturized filtration module, appreciating the elegant precision of its construction. Elaine's team had made remarkable progress with the reclamation system, solving problems that had seemed insurmountable in the Constantin days. And yet there was still work to be done, refinements to make, efficiencies to find. You're still here, Victoria said from the doorway, startling him from his reverie. She'd shed her blazer, and the absence of her usual armor made her seem almost approachable. It's nearly 9. Marcus checked his watch with a guilty start. I lost track of time. Lily's with her friend Zoe tonight for a sleepover, their first since the diagnosis. Victoria entered the lab, moving with the careful precision of someone in unfamiliar territory. Despite owning the company, she rarely ventured into the R&D spaces, preferring to receive briefings in conference rooms with PowerPoint presentations and executive summaries. Progress? She asked, nodding toward the scattered components. Significant, Marcus replied, unable to keep the pride from his voice. We've reduced the power consumption by 22% and increased the filtration capacity. If the next round of tests confirms our projections, we'll be ready for a pilot installation within 2 months. Ahead of schedule, Victoria noted, looking impressed despite herself. Elaine said you've been ... inspirational. Marcus felt a flush of embarrassment at the praise. I've just been doing the job you hired me for. You've been doing considerably more than that. Victoria picked up one of the prototype filters, examining it with careful fingers. You've re-energized the entire team. Even Dr. Patel is singing your praises, and he's notoriously difficult to impress. She set the filter down and fixed him with a direct gaze. You could have been running your own company by now, you know. If things had gone differently. The observation caught Marcus off guard. I don't know about that, I do. I've been watching you these past weeks. You have the vision, the technical knowledge, and the people skills. A rare combination. She leaned against the workbench. Instead, you spent 15 years cleaning up other people's messes. There was no judgment in her tone, only a clinical sort of curiosity. Still, Marcus felt defensive. I did what I had to do, he said. For Lily. Of course, Victoria agreed smoothly. I'm not criticizing. I'm observing. There's a difference. A difference she had pointed out in his apartment 2 weeks earlier. Marcus felt a flicker of irritation at being psychoanalyzed by someone who knew so little about the reality of his choices. His struggles. What would you have done? He asked before he could think better of it. If you'd been in my position. Blacklisted. A new baby. A wife fighting cancer. Victoria's expression didn't change, but something in her posture shifted slightly. I can't say. I've never faced those particular challenges. No, you haven't. The words came out sharper than he'd intended. You took Constantin's best innovations and built an empire on them. I'm not saying you didn't earn your success, but our paths were never going to look the same. He expected her to bristle at his tone, to reassert the hierarchical distance between CEO and consultant. Instead, she looked thoughtful. You're right, she said simply. I haven't walked your path, which is precisely why I need perspectives like yours. Before Marcus could respond to this unexpected concession, his phone chimed with a text message. He glanced down, expecting to see an update from Lily's friend's mother. Instead, it was from Zoe's mother herself. The message terse. Need to bring Lily home. Severe pain in her joints. Meeting you at your apartment. Marcus's blood ran cold. I have to go, he said, already gathering his things. It's Lily. Something's wrong. Victoria straightened immediately. Take my car, she said, pulling out her phone. It's in the garage. I'll have my driver meet you at the entrance. That's not necessary. It's faster than waiting for a taxi. She cut him off, already texting instructions. Go, now. There was no time to argue. Marcus grabbed his jacket and the Constantin toolbox, a habit he couldn't break, taking it home each night as if someone might steal it in his absence, and rushed for the elevator. To his surprise, Victoria followed. "Well, what are you doing?" he asked as they descended to the parking garage. "Coming with you," she replied, as if it were the most natural thing in the world for a CEO to accompany an employee to a family emergency. This isn't about what you need," Victoria interrupted. "This is about what Lily needs. A fast, direct route to medical care if necessary." The elevator doors opened, and Victoria's sleek black car was waiting, engine running, a uniformed driver standing at attention. She gave the driver Marcus's address, then slid into the back seat beside him, maintaining a careful professional distance. As the car pulled into the evening traffic, Marcus stared out the window, fingers drumming anxiously on the toolbox in his lap. Victoria was silent beside him, not offering platitudes or false reassurances. Grateful for that. The treatments were working, he said finally, more to himself than to her. Her inflammation markers were down. The pain was manageable. Victoria didn't respond immediately, seeming to weigh her words. "Juvenile rheumatoid arthritis can be unpredictable," she said finally. "My nephew has it." Marcus turned to look at her, surprised. It was the first personal detail she had shared. "Colin," she continued, her gaze fixed forward. "He was diagnosed at 8. He's 17 now, captain of his swim team." "I didn't know," Marcus said, feeling slightly off balance at this revelation. "It's not something I typically discuss in business contexts," Victoria replied. Then, more softly, "But I understand the fear you're feeling right now, Dots." The car navigated through the city streets with a swiftness that would have been impossible in a taxi. Within 15 minutes, they were pulling up in front of Marcus's apartment building, where a minivan was already parked, hazard lights blinking. Zoe's mother, Patricia, Marcus recalled, stood on the sidewalk with Lily, who was leaning heavily against her side. Even from a distance, Marcus could see his daughter's face contorted in pain. He was out of the car before it fully stopped, rushing to Lily's side. "What happened?" he asked, kneeling to examine her. "It started about an hour ago," Patricia explained, her voice tight with concern. "She was fine, they were playing board games, and then suddenly she couldn't move her left knee without crying." Lily looked up at him, eyes bright with tears she was trying desperately not to shed. "It hurts, Dad," she whispered. Like before. The words sent ice through his veins. Like before the treatments, when she'd wake screaming in the night, her small body betrayed by its own immune system. "Let's get you inside," he said gently, scooping her into his arm. He felt so light, so fragile against his chest. "Thank you, Patricia. I'm sorry the sleepover got cut short." "Don't be silly," the other mother said firmly. "Zoe's worried sick. Call us tomorrow. Let us know how she's doing." Marcus nodded and turned toward his building, only then becoming aware that Victoria had exited the car and was standing a few feet away, maintaining a respectful distance while still making her presence known. "Miss Sloane?" Lily asked, peering over her father's shoulder. Momentarily distracted from her pain by the unexpected appearance of the elegant CEO at their modest apartment building. "Hello, Lily," Victoria replied, her voice gentler than Marcus had ever heard it. "I'm sorry you're not feeling well." Patricia gave Victoria a curious look, then said her goodbyes and returned to her minivan, where Zoe's anxious face was pressed against the window. Marcus hesitated, caught between the need to get Lily upstairs and the awkwardness of Victoria's presence. "You should call her doctor," Victoria said, breaking the impasse. "Do you have her emergency medication at home?" "Yes, but..." "Then call while you get her settled. I'll wait in the car." The practical instructions cut through Marcus's momentary paralysis. He nodded gratefully and carried Lily inside, already mentally cataloging the steps ahead. Medication, doctor's call, ice packs, monitoring for fever. To his surprise, when he reached their apartment door, Victoria was behind him, phone to her ear, speaking in the authoritative tone he recognized from the office. "Yes, Dr. Levine. That's right. A flare of juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. Patient Lily Reed." She caught Marcus's startled look and covered the mouthpiece. "My sister-in-law is on staff at St. Mary's. Pediatric rheumatology. She's arranging for Dr. Levine to call you directly." Marcus fumbled with his keys one-handed, Lily still cradled in his other arm, and pushed the door open. Victoria followed them inside without waiting for an invitation, still coordinating medical care with an efficiency that left him momentarily speechless. Lily whimpered as he laid her gently on the couch, her small face pinched with pain. "It's going to be okay, sweet pea," he promised, smoothing her hair back from her forehead. "We've got this." He glanced up to find Victoria watching them, her expression unreadable. She handed him her phone. "Dr. Levine wants to speak with you." As Marcus took the call, explaining Lily's symptoms and treatment history, Victoria moved quietly into the kitchen. He heard water running, the refrigerator opening and closing. By the time he finished the call with instructions to bring Lily to the clinic first thing in the morning, Victoria had returned with a glass of water, Lily's medication, and a properly wrapped ice pack. "The doctor says to take her medication now, ice the knee for 20 minutes, and monitor for fever," Marcus reported, helping Lily sit up to take the pills. Victoria nodded, as if this confirmed her own assessment. Do you need anything else? Food? Additional ice packs? The question was so unexpected, so at odds with the cool, calculating CEO he'd come to know, that Marcus could only stare. Victoria Sloane standing in his modest kitchen, offering practical assistance while his daughter suffered on the couch. It was surreal. We're okay, he said finally. Thank you. For the ride. For the doctor. For ... single quotes, he trailed off, unsure how to characterize her unexpected support. Victoria nodded, accepting his incomplete gratitude. She glanced at Lily, who was watching their interaction through pain-glazed eyes. I should go, Victoria said, gathering her professional composure around her like a cloak. Take tomorrow off, Mr. Reed. The reclamation system can wait. I'll see how she's doing after the clinic appointment, Marcus replied automatically. Victoria's expression hardened slightly. That wasn't a suggestion. Your daughter needs you more than my company does right now. Single quotes before he could respond. She had moved to the door, her momentary vulnerability tucked neatly away behind her usual efficient demeanor. Miss Sloane, Lily called from the couch, her voice small but determined. Thank you for helping my dad bring me home. Victoria paused, her hand on the doorknob. For a moment, something flickered across her face, an emotion Marcus couldn't quite identify. You're welcome, Lily, she said softly. Feel better soon. And then she was gone, the door closing quietly behind her, leaving Marcus to wonder what had just happened, why Victoria Sloane, who kept everyone at a calculated professional distance, had chosen to bridge that gap tonight. The clinic's waiting room was crowded with anxious parents and fidgeting children, a symphony of sniffles and muffled coughs providing an unwelcome soundtrack to the morning. Marcus sat with Lily pressed against his side, her small body radiating heat that concerned him. The fever had started around midnight, spiking to 101 despite the medication. Dad, Lily whispered, her voice small. What if it doesn't go away this time? Marcus squeezed her shoulder gently. Dr. Levine is one of the best. Sweet pea. We'll figure this out, but what if I can't go to school again? What if I have to use the wheelchair like before? The question cut him to the core. The early days after her diagnosis had been brutal weeks of missed classes, the borrowed wheelchair, the sidelong glances from other children. Lily had endured it all with a resilience that both inspired and devastated him, never complaining even as her childhood was hijacked by pain and limitation. One step at a time, he said, forcing confidence into his voice. First we see the doctor, then we make a plan. A nurse appeared at the door, clipboard in hand. Lily Reed? Marcus helped Lily stand, supporting her weight as they followed the nurse into an examination room. Dr. Levine arrived moments later, a tall woman with prematurely silver hair and kind eyes behind stylish glasses. Lily, she greeted warmly, sitting at eye level with her young patient. I understand you had a rough night, as Lily described her symptoms. Dr. Levine examined the swollen knee with gentle, practiced hands. She asked questions about Lily's current medication regimen, recent activities, and diet. Any unusual stress lately? She asked, looking at Marcus. He hesitated. I started a new job 2 weeks ago, but Lily was excited about it. It's been a positive change, Doctor. Levine nodded thoughtfully. Sometimes even positive changes can trigger flares. Bodies are complicated things. She turned back to Lily. I'm going to adjust your medication and add a short course of steroids to calm the inflammation. We'll also run some blood tests today to see what's happening with your markers. The next hour passed in a blur of blood draws, prescriptions, and detailed care instructions. By the time they left the clinic, Lily was exhausted but in less pain. The first dose of steroids already beginning to work its magic. Can we get pancakes? Lily asked as they stepped outside, a hint of her usual spirit returning. Since I'm not going to school anyway, Marcus checked his watch. It was nearly 11, and he'd already received 3 messages from Elaine about an issue with the filtration module. But Victoria's words echoed in his mind. Your daughter needs you more than my company does right now. Pancakes it is, he agreed, rewarded by Lily's tired but genuine smile. They were settled in a booth at their favorite diner, Lily carefully cutting her blueberry pancakes into precise triangles when Marcus's phone rang, Victoria's direct line. He considered letting it go to voicemail, but the events of the previous night had altered something in their dynamic. He owed her at least the courtesy of an answer. Mr. Reed, Victoria's voice was crisp, businesslike. How is Lily this morning? The question, though professionally phrased, held a note of genuine concern that caught him by surprise. Better, he replied, watching his daughter methodically drown each pancake triangle in syrup. The doctor adjusted her medication. She needs to rest today, but the crisis seems to be passing. I'm glad to hear it. A brief pause. I've taken the liberty of arranging for Dr. Sarah Levine to join Lily's regular care team going forward. She's one of the leading pediatric rheumatologists in the country. Marcus blinked, processing this unexpected development. I don't know if our insurance is covered, Victoria interrupted smoothly. Campari's healthcare plan is quite comprehensive. I've had HR update your benefits package accordingly. A complex mixture of gratitude and discomfort twisted in Marcus's chest. The assistance was invaluable. But it also highlighted the power imbalance between them, Victoria solving problems with a wave of her corporate hand, while he had struggled for years to secure even basic care for his daughter. Thank you, he said finally, the words inadequate but sincere. It's a practical solution, Victoria replied, her tone suggesting she preferred to frame her generosity as simple efficiency. Healthy employees are productive employees. When do you anticipate returning to the office? The abrupt shift back to business steadied him somehow. This was the Victoria he recognized, focused, pragmatic, always with an eye on the bottom line. Tomorrow, probably. Lily should be well enough for school by then. Good. There's been a development with the reclamation system. Elaine can brief you when you return. A slight hesitation, then, give Lily my regards. She disconnected before he could respond, leaving him staring at his phone with a bemused expression. Was that Miss Sloane? Lily asked, licking syrup from her fork. Marcus nodded, tucking the phone away. She was checking on you. Lily considered this, head tilted. She's not as scary as she looks, is she? The observation, delivered with a child's unfiltered honesty, startled a laugh from Marcus. I'm not sure she'd appreciate that assessment. Well, she helped me last night, Lily said pragmatically, and she doesn't smile much, but her eyes are kind. Like Mars. Patel's cat, all grumpy on the outside, but nice when you get to know her. Marcus studied his daughter, struck once again by her perceptiveness. Victoria Sloane as a grumpy cat was not an analogy he would have dared make, but there was a certain truth to it. Finish your pancakes, philosopher, he said, tapping her plate gently. We need to pick up your new prescription. The following morning, Marcus left Lily at school with promises to pick her up early if needed, then headed to Compari Technologies. The familiar weight of his Constantin toolbox swung at his side, still a habit, though he now carried a sleek laptop bag as well. A strange bridge between his two worlds. When the elevator doors opened on the 34th floor, he was surprised to find Victoria waiting in the reception area, engaged in quiet conversation with Elaine. Mr. Reed, Victoria acknowledged, straightforward as ever. Dr. Cho was just updating me on yesterday's developments. Please join us in the conference room. He followed them, noting the unusual tension in Elaine's posture and the tightness around Victoria's mouth. Something had happened, something significant. The conference room table was covered with printouts, test results, and component diagrams. Elaine took a seat, her fingers drumming an anxious rhythm on her tablet. We received a notice from the patent office yesterday, Victoria said without preamble, sliding a document across the table. Someone has filed a competing claim on key elements of the reclamation system design. Marcus scanned the doc. His stomach dropped. Terraflow Technologies? Newly formed, Victoria confirmed. Incorporated 6 months ago. Their claim suggests they independently developed a nearly identical filtration mechanism. That's impossible, Marcus said, incredulous. This is our design. Constantin's design, originally, which Constantin never fully patented, Elaine pointed out, her frustration evident. We filed under Compari, but the competing claim creates a legal challenge that could delay approval by months, if not years, Victoria finished. Unless we can prove prior development and consistent work on the technology, Marcus frowned, turning pages in the doc. Who's behind Terraflow? Victoria and Elaine exchanged glances. That's the interesting part, Elaine said. The company's registered to a series of shells, but we hired investigators. They traced it back to Andrew Mercer. The name hit Marcus like a physical blow. Andrew Mercer, Constantin's former head of sales, Robert's closest ally, and one of the few executives who had emerged from the company's collapse financially unscathed. Mercer, he repeated, memories flooding back. He disappeared before the indictments. I always suspected he knew about the fraud. He knew, Victoria confirmed grimly, but he was careful. Left no paper trail connecting him to Robert's crimes. After Constantin fell, he vanished to South America for a few years. Apparently he's back, and he's targeting our project specifically. But how did he get our designs? Marcus asked, perplexed. Even the original Constantin blueprints wouldn't match what we've developed here. Elaine's expression darkened. We've been ... compromised. The word hung in the air, heavy with implication. Someone on the team has been feeding information to Terraflow, Victoria clarified, her voice cold with controlled anger. Detailed schematics, test results, prototype specifications, everything they would need to file a competing claim. Marcus felt sick. After everything, the whistleblowing, the career sacrifice, the years of exile, to have another betrayal touch this project seemed cruelly unjust. Do we know who? He asked. Not yet, Victoria said, but we will. In the meantime, we need to accelerate our timeline. If we can get a working prototype installed and operational before Terraflow can move forward with theirs, we strengthen our position significantly. She turned to Marcus, her gaze intense. You know this system better than anyone. You and Elaine built the original foundation. I need you to focus exclusively on this noun. Distractions. No divided attention. The unspoken question hung in the air. Could he commit fully, given Lily's condition? I can do it, he said firmly. But I'll need flexibility for Lily's appointments. That's non-negotiable. Victoria nodded once, accepting his terms without argument. Dr. Cho will reorganize the team. You'll have whatever resources you need. She paused, then added, this matters, Mr. Reed, not just to Campari's bottom line, but to the communities who need this technology. I won't let Mercer steal it to line his pockets. The passion in her voice surprised him, a genuine conviction that transcended business strategy. For a moment, Victoria Sloane sounded like the idealistic engineers at Constantin before profit had corrupted their mission. As the meeting concluded, and Elaine led Marcus to a newly designated workspace. He found himself re-evaluating his assumptions about Victoria, the woman who had appeared at his door demanding answers about a toolbox, who had accompanied him during Lily's health crisis, who had arranged specialist care without fanfare. She was more complex than the cold corporate executive he'd initially perceived. "She's been like this for 2 days," Elaine said quietly as they walked. "I've never seen her so personally invested in a project." "Because of the potential profit loss?" Marcus asked. Elaine shook her head. "No, because of what Mercer represents. She's read every report on Constantine's collapse. She knows what they did, what Robert and Andrew did to the company, to the workers." She gave Marcus a significant look. "To you, she doesn't know everything," Marcus replied automatically, the old defensive instinct rising. "She knows enough," Elaine countered, "and she's determined not to let history repeat itself." As they reached the newly established project room, walls already covered with schematics and timeline, Marcus set down his Constantine toolbox beside his workstation. The logo gleamed under the fluorescent lights, a reminder of everything that had been lost and, perhaps, what might yet be reclaimed. Through the glass walls, he saw Victoria in her office, phone pressed to her ear, her expression fierce with determination. For the first time, he wondered if perhaps they were fighting the same battle after all. The next 3 weeks blurred into a relentless cycle of work, medical appointments, and too little sleep. Marcus found himself caught in a familiar rhythm of obsession that he hadn't experienced since the Constantine days. The Constantine days, the consuming drive to solve a problem, to perfect a system, to outrace a ticking clock. The newly designated project room on the 34th floor became a second home, walls now covered with flow diagrams, component schematics, and a massive whiteboard tracking their progress against TerraFlow's presumed timeline. The team had been pared down to those Elaine trusted, implicitly reducing the potential leak sources while accelerating their work. Marcus looked up from his workstation, rubbing eyes gritty from too many hours staring at simulations. It was past 9, and he'd promised Lily he'd be home by 8. He reached for his phone to call Mrs. Patel, then froze as Victoria appeared in the doorway. She, too, showed signs of the grueling pace, her normally immaculate appearance slightly disheveled, dark smudges beneath her eyes that makeup couldn't quite conceal. In her hand was a thick folder stamped with the security department's logo. "You're still here," she observed, stating the obvious in that direct way of hers. "Just finishing the calibration sequence," Marcus replied, gesturing to his screen. "We're close to a breakthrough on the membrane efficiency." "If the next round of tests, it can wait until morning," Victoria interrupted, her tone leaving no room for argument. "Lily texted my office line 30 minutes ago." Marcus blinked, surprise momentarily displacing exhaustion. "Lily texted you?" Victoria's expression softened fractionally. "Apparently you programmed my number into her phone for emergencies. She wanted to know if you were still here because you weren't answering your phone." Marcus checked his phone and found 3 missed calls and a text from his daughter. Guilt crashed over him. "I had it on silent during the tests. I didn't realize." "She's fine," Victoria assured him. "I spoke with her. Mrs. Patel brought her dinner. But she'd like you to come home." The fact that Victoria had taken a personal call from his 12-year-old daughter and was now personally delivering the message was yet another unexpected development in their evolving dynamic. "I'll pack up," Marcus said, already saving his work and shutting down the simulation. Victoria lingered, watching him gather his things. Her gaze fell on the Constantine toolbox, which still accompanied him everywhere despite its practical uselessness in his current role. "I meant to ask," she said, her tone deliberately casual, "why do you bring that to work every day? Most of your colleagues use the storage lockers." Marcus paused, considering how much to share. "Habit, mostly," he said finally, and single quotes. He hesitated, then decided on honesty. "It reminds me of consequences, of what happens when good intentions get compromised." Victoria nodded, seemingly satisfied with his answer. "I have something to show you before you go," she said, holding up the security folder. "We've identified our leak." That got his full attention. "Who?" "David Chun, junior engineer. Joined the team 4 months ago." She opened the folder, revealing surveillance photos and email printouts. "He's been photographing schematics with his personal phone and uploading them to a secure cloud server. Security tracked the access logs back to an IP address associated with one of Mercer's subsidiaries." Marcus flipped through the evidence, anger building as he recognized components he'd personally redesigned. "Have you confronted him?" "Not yet. I wanted your input first." Victoria leaned against the workstation, studying his reaction. "You know these people better than I do. You worked with Mercer at Constant." The statement was matter of fact, but Marcus detected an underlying question. "You're wondering if I suspected anything, if I had any hint that Chun was compromised?" Victoria didn't deny it. "The thought crossed my mind." "I barely know him," Marcus said honestly. "He's on Elaine's side of the team, works mostly on the electrical systems." He paused, considering. "But now that you mention it, he did ask some oddly specific questions about the filtration module last week. I thought he was just being thorough." Victoria's expression hardened almost imperceptibly. "We need to handle this carefully. If we tip our hand too soon, Mercer will simply find another source." "I want to know exactly what What information has been shared, and what Terraflow knows about our progress? You want to feed him false information, Marcus guessed, impressed despite himself. Victoria Sloane was proving to be a formidable strategist. Precisely. She took the folder back, tucking it under her arms. Work with security tomorrow to develop some convincing but misleading design modifications. We'll make sure Chun has exclusive access to them. Marcus nodded, then glanced at his watch. I should go. Lily, of course. Victoria agreed immediately. We can continue this discussion tomorrow. She walked with him toward the elevator, maintaining a professional distance. As the doors opened, she added, almost as an afterthought, your daughter is remarkably self-possessed for her age. Marcus smiled tiredly. She's had to grow up faster than I would have liked. Children are resilient, Victoria observed, her tones suggesting personal knowledge rather than platitude. More so than we give them credit for. The elevator doors began to close, but Victoria held them with one hand. One more thing, Mr. Reed, about your toolbox. Her eyes met his with unexpected intensity. I understand why you keep it, but don't let it become an anchor that drags you back. Some reminders are useful. Others merely prevent us from moving forward. Before he could respond, she released the doors, leaving him to descend alone with her words echoing in his mind. When Marcus arrived home, he found Lily curled on the couch with her tablet, hair still damp from a shower, wearing the oversized MIT sweatshirt Elaine had given her during a recent visit to the office. Hey, Dad, she greeted, looking up from her game. Ms. Sloane said you were super busy saving the world with water filters. Marcus set down his things, guilt twisting anew. I'm sorry I missed your calls, sweet pea. The lab can be pretty absorbing. It's okay. Ms. Sloane was nice about it. Lily put her tablet aside, watching as he moved around the apartment, shedding his work clothes like an uncomfortable second skin. She asked about my medicine and if my knee was still hurting. Marcus paused in the middle of heating leftover pasta. She did? Lily nodded solemnly. She said her nephew Colin has the same thing I do, and that sometimes he gets so focused on swim practice that he forgets to take his medication, so his mom has to remind him. I told her you remind me every morning, but sometimes I pretend I already took it because I hate the taste. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You do? Lily had the grace to look slightly abashed. Sometimes. But I told her I wouldn't anymore because you work really hard to get my medicine, and it's not fair to waste it. That's ... Very mature of you, Marcus said, touched by his daughter's insight. What did Miss Sloane say to that? She said I was smarter than most of the executives she works with. Lily beamed, clearly pleased with this assessment, and that she'd send me some special medicine flavoring drops that Colin uses. They arrived an hour ago. She pointed to a small package on the counter that Marcus had overlooked. Marcus examined the package with mixed emotions. On one hand, Victoria's thoughtfulness toward Lily was genuinely touching. On the other, the ease with which she inserted herself into their lives ordering specialty medical supplies, programming her number into Lily's phone. Checking on his daughter when he failed created a complex tangle of gratitude and discomfort he couldn't quite unravel. That was very kind of her, he said finally, returning to the microwave as it beeped. Dad? Lily asked, watching him with that unnervingly perceptive gaze of hers. Do you like Miss Sloane? The question caught him off guard. She's my boss, Lily. It's not about liking or disliking her. That's not what I asked, Lily persisted with the relentless logic of the young. Hector is kind of your boss too, and you like him. You go fishing with him sometimes. It's complicated, Marcus hedged, bringing his reheated dinner to the coffee table and sitting beside her. Ms. Sloane and I have a professional relationship. We work well together. Lily considered this, clearly unconvinced. She looks at you the way my teacher, Marairs Bennett, looks at Marairs Rivera from the science department, like she's trying to solve a really hard puzzle. Marcus nearly choked on his pasta. I think you're reading too much into things, sweet pea. Maybe. Lily shrugged, picking up her tablet again. But she asked a lot of questions about you, like what you do on weekends and if you ever talk about Constantin engineering and if you're still sad about Mom. Now Marcus was genuinely alarmed. She asked about your mother? Not exactly, Lily clarified, frowning in concentration. She asked if you ever talked about the past. I said, not really, except when we look at Mom's pictures on her birthday. Then she got this funny look on her face and changed the subject. Marcus set his fork down. Appetite suddenly diminished. Victoria's interest in his personal life seemed to extend beyond professional courtesy or even genuine concern for Lily's well-being. She was probing, gathering information, but to what end? Dad? Lily's voice pulled him from his thoughts. Is something wrong with the project? Is that why you're working so late? Is that why Sloane is asking questions? Marcus forced a reassuring smile. There are some challenges, but nothing we can't handle. Miss Sloane is just being thorough. It's what makes her good at her job, Lily nodded, accepting this explanation with the faith of a child who still fundamentally trusted the adults in her life. Will you help me with my science project tomorrow? It's about water conservation. I thought maybe I could use something from your work as an example. Of course, Marcus promised, grateful for the change of subject. I'll even bring home some of the demo materials from the lab. The team made these cool miniature filtration units that show how the system works. Lily's face lit up, momentarily dispelling his unease. But as she returned to her game, his thought thoughts circled back to Victoria's cryptic elevator comment and the question she'd asked his daughter. Don't let it become an anchor that drags you back. His Constantin toolbox sat by the door where he'd left it, the logo catching the apartment's dim light. For 15 years it had been his talisman, his reminder, his penance. Now for the first time he wondered if it might also be something else, a clue in a game whose rules he didn't fully understand, played by a woman whose motives remained opaque. Tomorrow, he would help Victoria lay a trap for David Chun, but perhaps he needed to start paying closer attention to Victoria Sloane herself. 2 nights later, Marcus sat alone in his apartment, the Constantin toolbox open on the coffee table before him. Inside were the tools he rarely used anymore: wrenches, screwdrivers, voltage testers, relics of a life that seemed increasingly distant. Beneath the removable tray lay something he hadn't looked at in years: a thumb drive, taped to the bottom of the box, containing his original backup of the evidence against Robert Constant. He'd kept it all these years, though he wasn't entirely sure why. The legal case was long closed, the evidence submitted to authorities, the justice such as it was already served, yet something had prevented him from discarding this final piece of his past. Victoria's words echoed in his mind. Don't let it become an anchor that drags you back. His phone buzzed with a text from Elaine. Lab results confirms. The prototype exceeds all parameters. We're ready for installation. A moment of professional pride was quickly overshadowed by his lingering unease about Victoria. Her revelation about her brother had changed something fundamental in their dynamic, transforming what he'd understood as a purely professional relationship into something far more complex. His doorbell rang, unexpected at this late hour. Through the peephole he saw Victoria herself, still in her work clothes, but without her usual blazer, looking strangely vulnerable in just a silk blouse and tailored pants. "Ms. Sloane," he said, opening the door with undisguised surprise. "Is everything all right? I needed to speak with you," she said, her usual commanding presence somewhat diminished. "May I come in?" Marcus stepped aside, acutely aware of the contrast between her elegant attire and his modest apartment. Lily was at a friend's house for a movie night, her condition much improved under Dr. Levine's care. Victoria's gaze fell immediately on the open toolbox. "I'm interrupting something. Just ... reminiscing," Marcus admitted, closing the lid. "Can I offer you coffee?" Tea would be fine," she said, remaining standing until he gestured toward the couch. As he prepared the tea in the kitchen, he watched her through the pass-through window. Victoria Sloane, CEO of Compari Technologies, perched uncomfortably on his second-hand couch, examining the framed photo of Lily on the end table, with an expression he couldn't quite read. "She looks like you," Victoria observed when he returned with 2 mugs around the eyes. "She has her mother's smile," Marcus replied, setting the tea down, "and her stubbornness." A ghost of a smile touched Victoria's lips. Formidable combination. They sat in silence for a moment, the unusual domesticity of the scene creating an awkwardness neither seemed to know how to navigate. "You didn't come here to discuss genetics," Marcus said finally. "What's happened?" Victoria set her untouched tea aside. Mercer made his move. "He contacted our legal department this morning, claiming he has evidence that Compari stole proprietary teraflow designs. He's threatening litigation unless we enter into a partnership, essentially giving him control of the reclamation system. The false schematics worked," Marcus concluded. "He took the bait." "Completely," Victoria confirmed, a hint of satisfaction in her voice. "His technical team apparently spent the last 48 hours incorporating our flawed designs into their prototype. When it catastrophically failed during testing, he assumed we were experiencing the same issue. So what happens now? Now we spring the trap. Security has been monitoring Chun's communication. He has a meeting scheduled with Mercer tomorrow night, presumably to hand over our actual working design." Her expression hardened. "We'll be there to meet them instead with federal agents and enough evidence to bury them both." The clinical precision of her strategy was impressive, if somewhat chilling. This was the Victoria he'd come to know, professionally calculating, thorough, 3 steps ahead of her adversaries. "But that's not why I'm here," she continued, her tone shifting. "There's something else you should know before tomorrow." She reached into her bag and extracted a slender file. "About the Constantin whistleblower case." Marcus tensed. "I thought we'd covered this ground already." "Not entirely." She opened the file, removing a document he instantly recognized, the immunity agreement he'd signed with federal prosecutors 15 years earlier. "This contains a confidentiality clause. You were legally prohibited from identifying yourself as the whistleblower." "Yes," Marcus confirmed cautiously. "To protect my family from potential retaliation." Victoria nodded. "A standard provision." But there was an addendum. She extracted another page and handed it to him, one that was sealed at the request of the prosecutor. Marcus scanned the document, his confusion growing. "I don't understand. I never saw this. It stipulates that in exchange for your anonymity and immunity, you also agreed to forfeit any future claims to Constantin intellectual property, specifically patents developed during your employment." The implication hit him like a blow. "I would never have agreed to that. The reclamation system was my design, mine and Elaine's. You didn't agree to it," Victoria said quietly. "This addendum is a forgery. The signature is close, but not yours. Forensic analysis confirms it was added after the fact, without your knowledge." Marcus stared at her, stunned. "How long have you known this?" 3 months, Victoria admitted. "My legal team discovered it during preparation for the teraflow patent dispute, and you didn't tell me?" Marcus stood, anger rising. You let me work on the project knowing my rights had been stolen. I needed to understand first, Victoria said, maintaining her composure, to confirm who was responsible. And it was Andrew Mercer, she said simply. After Constantine's collapse, he maneuvered to secure control of the company's intellectual property. The forged addendum was part of that strategy, ensuring you could never claim ownership of your innovations if you ever resurfaced. Marcus paced the small living room, processing this revelation. So Mercer has known all along who I am, who the whistleblower was. Yes, Victoria confirmed, and he's been watching for you to reappear. When you joined Compari, when your name appeared on our patent applications, it wasn't a coincidence that Terraflow suddenly filed competing claim. This changes everything, Marcus said, mind racing. If the addendum is fraudulent, then legally, you still own partial rights to the original Constantin designs, Victoria finished for him, including the core technology in our reclamation system. Marcus turned to face her, suspicion hardened. Is that why you hired me? To secure those rights? To prevent me from challenging Campari's ownership? Victoria met his gaze unflinchingly. Initially, yes. It was a calculated risk assessment. Bring you inside, make you part of the project, offer you fair compensation rather than face potential litigation. The admission stung more than he would have expected. After everything, the late nights, the shared challenges, her kindness to Lily to learn it had begun as merely another corporate stratagem felt like betrayal. And now, he asked, his voice tight. Victoria stood, closing the distance between them. Now it's different. You must know that what I know, Marcus said carefully, is that you've revealed this information on the eve of confronting Mercer. Tactical timing, as always. Yes, she acknowledged without apology, because tomorrow when we face Mercer, you deserve to know exactly what was taken from you, what he tried to erase. The honesty in her answer disarmed him somewhat. And what do you expect me to do with this information? Whatever you decide, Victoria said simply. The legal department has prepared papers recognizing your original contribution and establishing joint ownership of the patents. Fair compensation for past and future applications. She extracted another document from her bag. Whether you sign or not, we're proceeding against Mercer tomorrow. This is separate. Marcus took the document but didn't open it. And if I decided to challenge Campari's claim entirely, to assert full ownership, then we'd have a problem, Victoria admitted. One I'd prefer to avoid. She hesitated, then added, not just for business reasons. The implication hung between them, neither quite ready to articulate the shifting nature of their relationship. Marcus set the document on the coffee table. I need time to think, to review this with my own lawyer. Of course, Victoria agreed immediately. Take whatever time you need. She gathered her things, preparing to leave. At the door, she paused. For what it's worth, Marcus, I believe we're building something important together. Something that honors your original vision and my brother's memory. It was the first time she'd used his first name. The subtle shift in address not lost on him. Tomorrow, he said, after we deal with Mercer and Chun, then we'll talk about the future. Victoria nodded once, accepting his terms. As she left, Marcus returned to the coffee table where the Constantin toolbox sat beside the patent agreement, symbols of his past and a possible future, both bearing the same logo that had started this journey months ago in a pristine hallway on the 34th floor. He opened the toolbox again, removing the hidden thumb drive. Perhaps it was time to let go of some anchors after all. The Westview Grand Hotel's private dining room was decorated in shades of burgundy and gold, chandeliers casting warm light over white tablecloths and polished silverware. Marcus sat at a corner table with Victoria and two plainclothes FBI agents, watching the entrance while pretending to study the wine list. Chun just arrived, said Agent Pearson, a compact woman with steel gray hair and the watchful eyes of a career investigator. She touched her earpiece briefly. He's in the lobby, checking his phone. Victoria sipped her water, outwardly composed, though Marcus noticed the slight tension in her shoulders. She wore a dark blue dress that could pass for either business or social attire, perfect for an ambiguous meeting that might be mistaken for a dinner date. Marcus himself felt uncomfortably formal in the borrowed suit from Campari's executive wardrobe. Mercer always liked to arrive last, Marcus said, the memory surfacing unbidden. Said it gave him the psychological advantage. Victoria's gaze shifted to him. You knew him well? Not well enough, apparently. Marcus straightened his tie. I never saw who he really was until it was too late. Agent Pearson touched her earpiece again. Mercer's car just pulled up. Black Mercedes, private driver. Marcus felt his heart rate quicken after 15 years. He was about to face the man who had helped dismantle Constantin Engineering from the inside, who had forged documents to steal his patent rights, who had escaped the justice that Robert Constantin had faced. Remember Agent Reeves, the second FBI agent said quietly. Let him incriminate himself. We need clear evidence of industrial espionage and conspiracy. Victoria checked her watch. Chun should be meeting him in the lobby now. Our surveillance shows they've never been seen together publicly. Marcus nodded, understanding the strategy. Mercer was too cautious to put himself directly at risk. Chun would be the buffer, the one who would take the fall if the scheme was discovered. But tonight, that caution would work against him. The dining room doors opened. David Chun entered first, his usual nervous energy amplified. Behind him walked Andrew Mercer, and Marcus had to suppress a visceral reaction to the sight of his former colleague. Mercer had aged well, salt and pepper hair expertly styled, tan suggesting regular vacations, the confident posture of a man untroubled by conscience or consequence. He looked exactly like what he was, successful, wealthy, and untouchable, until now. Chun spotted their table first, his step faltering as he recognized Victoria. Mercer, following his gaze, froze momentarily before smoothing his expression into a practiced smile. "Victoria Sloane," he said as he approached their table. "What an unexpected surprise. I believe I had a meeting with Miss Chun here." "You did," Victoria confirmed, gesturing to the empty chairs. "Please, join us. We have much to discuss." Chun looked like he might bolt, but Mercer placed a subtle, restraining hand on his elbow. "I don't believe I know your other guests," he said, his gaze sliding over Marcus without recognition, then pausing on the federal agents. "Allow me to introduce Agent Pearson and Agent Reeves of the FBI's Intellectual Property Rights Division," Victoria said smoothly. "And I believe you already know Marcus Reed, formerly of Constantin Engineering." The name hit Mercer like a physical blow. His eyes snapped back to Marcus, recognition dawning as the years and changed appearance fell away. "Reed," he said, the single syllable loaded with surprise and something like wary respect. "The whistleblower returns from the dead." "Not dead," Marcus replied evenly, "just invisible, the way janitors often are." Understanding flickered across Mercer's face. "The maintenance worker with the Constantin toolbox." "That was you?" He laughed, a short, genuine sound of appreciation. "I always did underestimate you. Please sit," Victoria insisted, her tone making it clear this wasn't a request. Mercer assessed the situation with the calculation of a career opportunist. After a moment, he took a seat, nodding for Chun to do the same. The younger engineer complied, his face ashen. "I assume this isn't a social reunion," Mercer said, helping himself to water from the carafe. "Though I must admit, I've wondered what became of you." Reed, Constantin's right-hand man, vanishing without a trace after bringing down the company. "We both know Robert brought down the company," Marcus corrected. "I just made sure he faced consequences for it." "Unlike some," Mercer's smile tightened. "We all have different survival strategies. Mine was more ... effective than yours, it seems." He gestured to Victoria. "Until now, perhaps. I take it Ems. Sloane has made you an attractive offer to secure those old Constantin patents." "Actually," Victoria interjected, "we're here to discuss Terraflow Technologies and its recent patent claims on water reclamation technology." Mercer's expression didn't change, but Marcus, who had once spent countless hours in meetings with him, noticed the subtle tension around his eyes. "A simple business dispute," Mercer said dismissively, "hardly requiring federal involvement. It's considerably more than that," Agent Pearson said, sliding a folder across the table. "This is a warrant authorizing the seizure of all Terraflow documents related to water reclamation technology patents." "On what grounds?" Mercer demanded, not touching the folder. "Industrial espionage," Agent Reeves replied. "Conspiracy to commit fraud. Interstate wire fraud. For starters." David Chun made a small, distressed sound. Mercer shot him a warning glance. "These are absurd accusations," Mercer said, his voice hardening. Terraflow developed its technology independently. If there are similarities to Campari's systems, perhaps Ems. Sloane should examine her own research team for the source of the leak. Victoria smiled coldly. "We have, Mr. Mercer." Ostensibly. She nodded to Agent Pearson, who produced a tablet and played a brief audio recording. Chun's voice, clearly explaining how he had accessed secure Campari servers and transmitted confidential designs to an offshore email account. Chun slumped in his chair, defeated. Mercer's expression didn't change, but his knuckles whitened around his water glass. "One disgruntled employee's actions hardly constitute a conspiracy," Mercer said smoothly. "If Mr. Chun has violated his employment agreement, that's between him and Campari. It has nothing to do with Terraflow or me personally." "We anticipated you might say that," Victoria replied. She removed a flash drive from her purse and slid it across the table. "This contains the schematics, MR. Chun transmitted to you 3 days ago, okay? The ones your engineers incorporated into your prototype. The ones that caused a catastrophic failure during testing yesterday." Mercer didn't touch the drive. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The schematics were altered, Andrew," Marcus said quietly. "Deliberately flawed in ways only someone with intimate knowledge of the system would recognize. We knew they were being stolen. We wanted to see where they would go. And they led directly to you," Victoria finished. "To Terraflow's secret testing facility in Nevada. To the prototype that's currently being disassembled by federal agents as we speak." For the first time, genuine alarm showed on Mercer's face. "You can't. We already have," Agent Pearson interrupted. "The operation began an hour ago. We have everything, Mr. Mercer. Server records, financial transactions, communications between you and Mr. Chun, and perhaps most interestingly, a certain addendum to a 15-year-old immunity agreement." Mercer's gaze flickered to Marcus, then back to the federal agents. The calculation behind his eyes was almost visible, assessing options. Escape routes, sacrificial pawns. "David," he said suddenly, turning to Chun, "I want you to understand how disappointed I am. Stealing from your employer, attempting to sell proprietary information to a competitor, these are serious crimes. I had no idea you were involved in anything like this when you approached Terraflow." Chun stared at him in disbelief. "But you told me exactly what to look for. You gave me the server access points." "I did nothing of the kind," Mercer replied calmly. This sounds like the desperate attempt of a guilty man to spread blame. He turned to the agents. I'm sure a thorough examination of TerraFlow's records will show we had no knowledge of MRC's activities. If our designers unwittingly incorporated stolen elements into our prototype, we will of course abandon those designs immediately. Marcus had expected this. Mercer's ability to shed responsibility like a snake shedding skin had always been his greatest talent, but this time they were prepared. There's more, Marcus said, meeting Mercer's gaze directly. The forged addendum to my immunity agreement, the one that supposedly stripped me of patent rights to the reclamation system. We know it was you. For a fraction of a second, genuine surprise flickered across Mercer's face, not at the accusation, but at their knowledge of it. I don't know what you're talking about, he repeated, but the denial lacked his earlier conviction. The document was forensically analyzed, Agent Reeves said. The signature was forged, but more importantly, the paper itself was manufactured 6 months after the date on the document. Quite sloppy, really. And then there's this, Victoria said, producing another flash drive. Mr. Reed had the foresight to maintain his own records during the Constantin investigation, including emails between you and Robert Constantin discussing how to divert pension funds, falsify safety reports, and conceal structural problems at the fabrication facility. This time, Mercer's composure cracked visibly. That's impossible. All those records were destroyed. Not all of them, Marcus said quietly. I kept copies. Insurance, in case something happened to my family. I never needed to use them after Robert went to prison, but I never destroyed them either. It was the thumb drive from the Toolbox, the final anchor from his past that now, ironically, would secure his future. Mercer looked from face to face, the reality of his situation slowly sinking in. For a moment, Marcus thought he might simply surrender to the inevitable. Then Mercer's expression hardened into something ugly and familiar. The same look he'd worn when Marcus had confronted him about safety concerns 15 years ago. You were always self-righteous, Reed, he said, voice dripping with contempt. So concerned with doing the right thing that you destroyed hundreds of jobs, ruined lives. And for what? To end up as a janitor? He turned to Victoria. And you. James would be disgusted to see you working with the man responsible for his death. Victoria went very still. Don't you dare speak my brother's name. I knew him far better than you think, Mercer continued, a cruel smile playing at his lips. He knew the risks at that facility. Everyone did. They took the hazard pay because they needed the money. Your precious whistleblower here waited until people were already dead to develop a conscience. Marcus felt the old guilt surge. But before he could respond, Victoria leaned forward, her voice low and controlled. My brother died because men like you and Robert Constantin decided profit margins were more important than human lives. Marcus exposed that truth at great personal cost. You, on the other hand, ran. You hid. You stole. And now, finally, you'll face the consequences. She nodded to the federal agents. I believe we're done here. Single quotes. Agent Pearson stood. Andrew Mercer, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, industrial espionage, and obstruction of justice. She began reciting his rights as Agent Reeves moved to secure Chun, who surrendered without resistance. Mercer remained seated, his expression congealing into cold fury. This isn't over, he said to Victoria. Compere will be tied up in litigation for years. The reclamation system will never see the light of day. Actually, Victoria replied with calm certainty. The first installation begins tomorrow at Westview Municipal Water Treatment Facility. By the time your case reaches court, our system will be operating in 3 states, with contracts for 7 more. She stood, straightening her dress with precise movements. It's over, Mr. Mercer. You lost. As the agents led Mercer and Chun away, Marcus remained seated, a complex mixture of emotions washing over him. Vindication, certainly. Relief that Mercer would finally face justice. But also a strange, unexpected grief for everything that had been lost, the promising company Constantin might have been, the lives that might have been saved, the career path he had abandoned. Victoria returned to the table after speaking briefly with Agent Pearson in the hallway. She sat across from him, studying his expression. Are you all right? She asked, the cool efficiency of her CEO persona softening slightly. I don't know, Marcus answered honestly. I've imagined confronting Mercer for 15 years. The reality was different. Justice often is, Victoria observed. Messier. Less satisfying than we hoped, but necessary, Marcus added, meeting her gaze. Yes, she paused, then continued with uncharacteristic hesitation. What he said about you being responsible for James's death, He wasn't wrong, Marcus said quietly. Not entirely. I should have acted sooner. Victoria shook her head firmly. No. The responsibility lies with those who falsified the reports, who knowingly created dangerous conditions. You exposed the truth at great personal cost. Mercer was just trying to hurt you, to hurt us with his last bit of leverage. The U.S. didn't escape Marcus's notice, a small word with significant implication. The patent agreement, he said, changing the subject. The one you left with me last night. I've made my decision. Victoria's expression remained carefully neutral. And, I'll sign, Marcus said. Joint ownership, fair compensation, moving forward together. He met her gaze directly. But I have one condition. Name it. The Constantin logo on the toolbox, he said. It stays as it is when we launch the reclamation system. A reminder of where this began and what it cost. Victoria considered this, then nodded once. Constantin Compare reclamation system, she agreed. A fitting tribute to what was lost and what we've reclaimed in that moment. Looking at her across the white tablecloth under the warm glow of the chandelier, Marcus felt something shift between them. Professional respect deepening into something more complex, more personal, a shared purpose that transcended business strategy or legal agreements. To reclamation, Victoria said softly, raising her water glass. Marcus touched his glass to hers. To new beginnings. Autumn sunlight glinted off the polished stainless steel of the Constantin Compare reclamation system as the Westview mayor cut the ceremonial ribbon. Camera flashes erupted from the gathered press, capturing the moment for evening news broadcasts and morning papers. On the small stage erected for the occasion, Marcus stood beside Victoria, both wearing identical lapel pins featuring the merged Constantin Compare logo, his old toolbox, emblem now officially incorporated into the company's brand identity. This technology, the mayor was saying, voice amplified through speakers for the assembled crowd, will reduce our city's water consumption by 65%, save taxpayers millions annually, and establish Westview as a leader in sustainable infrastructure. Marcus scanned the audience, finding Lily's face in the front row. She sat in a folding chair beside Mrs. Wuviz Patel, her expression a mixture of pride and mild embarrassment at seeing her father on stage. Her new medication regimen was working well, no flares in nearly 2 months, her energy levels higher than they'd been in years. I'd like to invite Victoria Sloane, CEO of Compare Technologies, to say a few words, the mayor continued, stepping back from the microphone. Victoria moved forward with practiced ease, her navy suit impeccable in the bright morning light. Thank you, Mayor Reynolds, and thank you to the City of Westview for your forward-thinking partnership. Today marks not only the launch of revolutionary water conservation technology, but also a new chapter in how corporations approach innovation with conscience, purpose, and accountability. Her speech was brief but powerful, acknowledging the team's hard work without the self-congratulatory excess typical of corporate unveilings. As she spoke about responsibility to communities and future generations, Marcus noticed a genuine passion in her voice that transcended mere public relations messaging. And now, Victoria concluded, I'd like to invite Marcus Reed, co-developer of the reclamation system and Compare's new director of sustainable innovation, to explain how this technology will transform water management for generations to come. The title still felt strange to Marcus's formal recognition of his expertise that had materialized in the weeks following. Mercer's arrest. As he stepped to the microphone, he felt momentarily disoriented by the applause, by the respectful attention of engineers and officials who, just months earlier, would have passed him in hallways without a second glance. He gathered himself and began the simplified technical explanation he'd rehearsed with Lily the night before. She had listened patiently, stopping him whenever he slipped into jargon, forcing him to translate complex engineering concepts into language anyone could understand. Now, watching her nod along in the audience, he was grateful for her coaching. In essence, he concluded, this system mimics nature's own water cycle, but accelerates and optimizes it for human needs. What once took months now takes hours, with minimal energy consumption and maximal conservation. He gestured toward the gleaming installation behind him. Today, Westview. Tomorrow, communities around the world where clean water is scarce and precious. The applause was gratifying, but the small thumbs up from Lily meant infinitely more. As the ceremony transitioned to a guided tour of the facility, Marcus made his way to his daughter's side. Was I boring? He asked, crouching beside her chair. Only a little bit at the end, Lily replied with the brutal honesty of the young. But most grown-ups seemed interested. Mrs. Patel patted his arm. You were wonderful, Marcus. Such important work you are doing now. Dad, Lily said, lowering her voice conspiratorially. Sloane keeps looking over here. Is she checking to see if I liked your speech? Marcus glanced toward Victoria, who was indeed watching them while simultaneously fielding questions from a reporter. Their eyes met briefly, and she gave him a small private smile before returning her attention to the interview. Something like that, he murmured, unexpectedly warmed by the observation. The relationship between him and Victoria had evolved in subtle, undefined ways since Mercer's arrest 6 weeks earlier. Professionally, they had become a formidable team, her strategic vision complementing his technical expertise. The joint patent agreement had been finalized, ensuring both fair compensation for his historical contribution and ongoing recognition for future innovations. Personally, however, they remained in an ambiguous territory more than colleagues, but hesitant to define what that more might entail. There had been late nights working side by side in her office, shared meals disguised as business discussions, and an increasing interest in each other's lives beyond Compare's glass walls. Victoria had come to Lily's school science fair, arriving in an understated but unmistakably expensive car that had caused a minor sensation among the students. Marcus had accompanied her to a charity gala where his name had appeared alongside hers on the invitation. Small steps, careful one, both of them wary of the complex power dynamics between them and the very different worlds they inhabited. Mr. Reed, a young woman with a press badge, approached. Andrea Chun from the Herald. Could I ask you a few questions about your journey from Constantin Engineering to today's launch? Marcus tensed slightly. His past had been deliberately omitted from the press materials, the official narrative focusing on his technical expertise rather than his whistleblower history. I'm sorry, Miss Chun. I'd prefer to focus on the technology itself rather than... It's a remarkable story, the reporter persisted. Anonymous whistleblower exposes corporate fraud, disappears for 15 years, then resurfaces to complete the very project that was abandoned. Our readers would be fascinated. Before Marcus could respond, Victoria materialized beside him, her arrival so smoothly timed it seemed choreographed. Mr. Reed's personal history is certainly compelling, she agreed, her tone pleasant but firm. But today's focus is the reclamation system and its potential impact. Perhaps we could arrange a more comprehensive interview at a later date. Once the technology has proven itself in operation, the reporter recognized the gentle but unmistakable shutdown. Of course, Miss Sloane. I look forward to that opportunity. She retreated, already scanning the crowd for another angle. Thank you, Marcus said quietly when she was out of earshot. Merely postponing the inevitable, Victoria replied. Your story will come out eventually. It's too good not to, but it should be on your terms when you're ready. Lily, who had been pretending not to listen to the exchange, looked up. What story? About Constantin. Marcus exchanged a glance with Victoria. In the months since he'd joined Company, Lily had pieced together fragments of his past from overheard conversations and her own research. She knew he had once been an executive at Constantin, that the company had collapsed amid scandal, and that he had changed careers afterward. But the full truth, the whistleblowing, the sacrifice, the 15 years of exile remained untold. A story for another day, Marcus promised her. Today is about the future, not the past. Victoria checked her watch. The technical demonstration begins in 5 minutes. I should go make sure Dr. Cho is ready. She hesitated, then added, will you both join us for dinner tonight to celebrate properly? Can we go to Romano's? Lily asked immediately. They have the best tiramisu. An excellent choice, Victoria agreed with a smile. I'll make the reservation. As she walked away, Lily gave her father a knowing look. She likes you, she declared with the absolute certainty of a 12-year-old. Like, really likes you. It's complicated, sweet pea, Marcus hedged, feeling suddenly awkward. We work together. So did Mom and you, Lily pointed out pragmatically. You said you met at your first engineering job. The comparison caught Marcus off guard. He hadn't thought of Diana in that context for a long time. The early days, the excitement of new love intertwined with professional collaboration. Before the cancer, before Constantin's collapse, before everything changed. That was different, he said, fine. Miss Sloane is, nice, Lily interrupted, and smart. And she makes sure I get the best doctors. And she looks at you the way Mom does in the old pictures. Before Marcus could formulate a response to this startling observation, they were interrupted by Elaine Cho, who approached with a tablet in hand, her expression urgent. Marcus, we have a situation, she said, keeping her voice low. The secondary filtration cycle is showing inconsistent pressure readings. Nothing critical yet, but if it continues to fluctuate, ... single quotes, he was immediately alert. The personal conversation forgotten. Show me. As Elaine led him toward the control room, he glanced back at Lily. Stay with Mrs. Patel. I'll be back as soon as I can. Lily nodded, already familiar with the routine of her father's work emergencies. I'll save you a cookie from the reception table, she promised. The control room was a stark contrast to the celebratory atmosphere outside, sterile, focused, filled with engineers monitoring data streams from the newly activated system. Victoria was already there, conferring quietly with the facility's operations manager. She looked up as Marcus entered. Initial diagnosis? Pressure inconsistency in the secondary filtration, he replied, moving directly to the monitoring station. Could be a sensor issue, could be mechanical. He studied the readouts, mind automatically calculating variables and probabilities. When did it start? 4 minutes after full activation, Elaine reported. The fluctuation is increasing gradually. Marcus nodded, already seeing the pattern in the data. It's not mechanical. It's an algorithm issue. The flow management system is overcompensating for normal variations. His fingers flew across the keyboard, adjusting parameters. We need to decrease the sensitivity by 12%. Victoria watched him work, neither interfering nor retreating. This was his domain, his expertise, the reason she had sought him out all those months ago, beyond any personal connection or historical claim. There, Marcus said after several minutes of concentrated work, the system should stabilize within the next cycle. They all watched the monitors, tension gradually easing as the pressure readings began to normalize. The potential crisis averted, the control room staff returned to their regular monitoring. Crisis management suits you, Victoria observed as they stepped into the hallway. Better than a mop and bucket, I'd say. Marcus smiled ruefully. Different tools for different problems. But yes, I've missed this, solving the real engineering challenges, not just cleaning up after them. Victoria studied him, her expression softening. You know, when I first saw you with that Constantin toolbox, I was furious. I thought you were mocking me somehow, flaunting the logo of the company that had cost me so much. And now? Marcus asked quietly. Now I understand you were carrying it as a reminder not just of failure but of principle, of refusing to abandon what matters even when it costs you everything. She glanced toward the control room where the reclamation system continued its vital work. Some tools are worth keeping, even when they remind us of difficult times. The observation hung between them, layered with meaning beyond the literal. Romano's at 7, Marcus confirmed, gently shifting the conversation. Victoria nodded, professional composure returning. I'll send a car for you and Lily. That's not necessary, Mark. It's a celebration, Victoria interrupted with unusual insistence. Let me do this small thing. The request was genuine, almost vulnerable. Marcus found himself nodding in agreement, recognizing that sometimes acceptance was its own form of gift. 7 it is, he agreed. I should get back to Lily before she convinces the mayor to adopt a class pet for her science room. Victoria smiled. A real smile that transformed her usually composed features. She's remarkable, like her father. As Marcus walked away, he felt a strange sense of alignment, past and present, professional and personal. Loss and renewal all converging in unexpected harmony. The Constantine toolbox that had once been his anchor was now incorporated into something new, something hopeful, a symbol not just of what had been lost, but of what had been reclaimed. Outside, the autumn sun continued to shine on the gleaming reclamation system, its merged logo catching the light like a promise fulfilled. 6 months later, Marcus stood in his office on the 34th floor of Helios's tower, gazing out at the city through floor-to-ceiling windows that still sometimes made him feel like an imposter. The director of Sustainable Innovation Office, his office was spacious and minimally furnished, with framed schematics of the reclamation system on one wall and Lily's science fair ribbon on another. In the corner on a custom-built walnut stand sat the Constantin toolbox, no longer a reminder of failure or shame, but a symbol of continuity, of how the past shapes the present without defining it entirely. A soft knock drew his attention to the door, where Hector stood in his familiar blue coveralls, a bemused expression on his face. Still feels weird visiting you up here in the executive suite, the older man said, stepping inside. Like I should be wearing a tie or something. Marcus laughed. You know you don't need to knock, right? You're the one who kept me sane for 5 years. Maybe so, but you're management again now. Hector gestured to the view. Got the corner office to prove it. Some things change, some don't, Marcus replied, moving to greet his friend properly. How's the maintenance crew? Same old, same. Fixing what breaks, cleaning what spills. Hector's weathered face crinkled in a smile. Though morale's better since you convinced Miss Sloane to upgrade our break room and equipment. First time in 20 years anyone in a suit remembered we exist. Marcus nodded, recognizing the truth in his words. His time in maintenance had given him perspective few executives ever acquired. Ground-level understanding of the invisible workers who kept everything functioning. Speaking of Miss Sloane, Hector continued, a twinkle in his eye. Rumor in the lobby is she's been spotted having dinner with a certain director of sustainable innovation. More than once, Marcus felt a familiar warmth rise to his face. The building gossip network is as efficient as ever, I see. Faster than email, Hector confirmed cheerfully. So, is it serious? The question gave Marcus pause. What exactly was happening between him and Victoria? The professional boundaries remained clear at work. She was still the CEO, he still the director of his division. But outside Campari's walls, something had been quietly blooming. Dinners that lingered past dessert. Texts that had nothing to do with business. Walks through the park on crisp weekend mornings while Lily raced ahead on her bike, her health stronger than it had been in years. Small, careful steps towards something neither of them had planned. It's ... evolving, he said finally. We're taking it slow. There's a lot to consider. Lily seems fond of her, Hector observed. Too fond sometimes, Marcus replied with a rueful smile. She's already planning our wedding. Picked out colors and everything. Hector laughed. Kids, no patience for the grown-up dance of relationship caution. A notification chimed on Marcus's computer. The quarterly board meeting, he explained. I should prepare, right? Hector nodded. Just wanted to drop this off anyway. He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small box wrapped in simple blue paper. Happy anniversary. 1 year since M's. Sloane found you in the hallway with that toolbox and turned both our lives upside down. Marcus accepted the package with surprise. You remembered. Hard to forget the day you came down to the maintenance office looking like you'd seen a ghost. Hector replied. Open it later. Good luck with the suits. After Hector left, Marcus placed the small gift on his desk, oddly moved by the gesture. Had it really been a year? A year since Victoria Sloane had demanded to know why her logo was on his tools, setting in motion a cascade of events that had transformed his life in ways he could never have anticipated. The boardroom was already filled when Marcus arrived, executives in expensive suits making pre-meeting small talk. He found his assigned seat, still acclimating to being on this side of the corporate hierarchy. Elaine caught his eye from across the table and gave him a reassuring nod. The room quieted as Victoria entered. She wore a charcoal suit with subtle blue accents, her presence commanding immediate attention without effort. Her gaze swept the room, lingering briefly on Marcus with a warmth visible only to those who knew to look for it. Good morning, she began, taking her place at the head of the table. Today's agenda includes the quarterly financial review. updates on the reclamation system installations, and a special announcement regarding our corporate structure. The meeting proceeded efficiently through financial reports and operational updates. The reclamation system was now operating in 12 cities across 3 countries, with dozens more contracts pending. Campori's stock had reached an all-time high, and industry analysts were hailing Victoria as a visionary leader in sustainable technology. When they reached the final agenda item, Victoria's demeanor shifted subtly. As most of you know, Campari Technologies was founded as a private corporation with a specific mission and structure. For 14 years, that structure has served us well. Marcus listened attentively, unsure where this was heading. Victoria rarely discussed Campari's founding or early history. Today I'm announcing a restructuring, she continued. Campari will be establishing the Janitor Sloane Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to bringing clean water technology to underserved communities worldwide. 20% of all future profits from the Constantin Campari reclamation system will fund this initiative. A murmur ran through the board members. Victoria waited for it to subside before continuing. Additionally, we'll be establishing the Reclamation Project or program to identify and recruit talented individuals who, for various reasons, have been excluded from traditional career paths in engineering and technology. Her gaze met Marcus's briefly, a silent acknowledgement of the inspiration behind this initiative. This isn't charity, Victoria emphasized, addressing the skepticism visible on some board members' faces. It's strategy. Innovation rarely comes from comfortable places. It comes from those who see problems differently because they've experienced them firsthand. As the meeting concluded, Marcus gathered his notes, processing the significance of Victoria's announcement. The James Sloane Foundation would be her brother's legacy, a transformation of personal tragedy into tangible good, and the Reclamation Project would offer others the second chance he had received, creating a systematic path rather than leaving it to chance encounters with Constantin toolboxes in corporate hallways. Victoria approached as the room emptied, her professional mask softening slightly. "Walk with me," she said, not quite a question. They moved through the corridors of the 34th floor, maintaining a careful professional distance observed by curious eyes. "The foundation," Marcus said when they were relatively alone in the elevator. "You didn't mention you were planning this." "Some decisions need to remain separate," Victoria replied. "The CEO's prerogative." The elevator descended, the floors ticking away in comfortable silence. When it reached the lobby, Victoria surprised him by continuing toward the building's exit rather than returning to her office. "I have a meeting across town," she explained. "I thought you might join me. It's relevant to your division." Outside, her driver held the car door open. Once they were settled in the privacy of the back seat, Victoria's posture relaxed visibly. "I didn't want to blur the lines in the boardroom," she said. "The foundation needed to be presented as a business decision, not a personal one." "But it is personal," Marcus observed. Victoria nodded, looking out the window at the passing city. "James would have been 35 next month. I've been thinking about what he might have become, what he might have built." She turned back to Marcus. The reclamation system would have mattered to him. Clean water, sustainable solutions. He was idealistic that way. Like his sister, Marcus said quietly. A small smile touched her lips. "Perhaps, though I buried that part of myself for a long time." She paused, till a janitor with a Constantin toolbox reminded me of it. The car moved through midday traffic, the city streaming past in a blur of glass and steel. Victoria glanced at her watch. Quote, "We have time before the meeting," she said. "There's somewhere I'd like to stop first." 20 minutes later, they pulled up outside Lily's school. Victoria instructed the driver to wait, then led Marcus toward the playground visible around the side of the building. "What are we doing?" Marcus asked, confused. "Observing," Victoria replied simply. Through the chain-link fence, they could see children at recess. Among them was Lily, running freely in a game of tag, her movement unburdened by pain or limitation. As they watched, she tagged another girl, then sprinted away laughing, her face flushed with healthy exertion. "1 year ago," Victoria said softly, "she couldn't run like that." Single quotes. Marcus nodded, throat suddenly tight with emotion. "The specialist you found. The treatment protocol, it's made all the difference." "She did the hard work," Victoria corrected. "She's remarkably resilient." They stood in silence, watching the children play until the bell rang, signaling the end of recess. As Lily lined up with her classmates, she spotted them through the fence. Her surprised smile was radiant as she waved enthusiastically. "Why are we really here?" Marcus asked as they walked back to the car. Victoria considered the question. "Perspective," she said finally. "Before meetings where numbers and strategies dominate, I find it helpful to remember why any of it matters." In the car, Marcus suddenly remembered Hector's gift. He withdrew the small box from his pocket. "Mind if I open this?" Victoria gestured for him to proceed. He unwrapped the package carefully, revealing a small velvet case inside. Opening it, he found a set of cufflinks, miniature replicas of the Constantin Campari logo. "From Hector," he explained, showing Victoria. "Apparently it's the anniversary of our first meeting in the hallway." Victoria's expression softened. He remembered. "He said it was the day that turned both our lives upside down." Marcus studied the cufflink, the merged logos representing everything that had changed in the past year. "I never thanked you, you know." "For what?" "For demanding answers about that toolbox, for not accepting the easy explanation, for seeing something in me worth reclaiming." Victoria was quiet for a moment. Then she reached across the space between them and took his hand, a gesture so rare and deliberate it felt momentous. "Perhaps we reclaimed each other," she said simply. As the car continued toward their meeting, Marcus thought about the Constantin toolbox sitting in his office. The object object that had once been a burden, then a confrontation, and was now a bridge between past and future. A physical reminder that sometimes the things we carry with us, even in grief or shame or loss, contain the seeds of something new. Full circle, he thought, his hand still in Victoria's. Not an ending, but a continuation.